We're going to kick off this series today, Misdirection, in Acts chapter number 12. We're going to look, there's this king at the time named Herod, and Herod is going around arresting Christians with one plan in mind, just to simply persecute them. He wants to persecute the Christians. That's why he's doing what he's doing. And he has gone and he has killed James, who was John, Jesus' disciple's brother. He's killed James, and now he has his eyes on another disciple of Jesus named Peter. And he wants one thing for Peter. He just wants to arrest him so that he can have him killed. That's why, like this is like serious persecution. I know, like we throw that word around, but like serious, like they are being arrested to be killed simply because they are preaching Jesus. And so Peter is arrested. He's put into prison. He's going to be put on trial the next day and ultimately will be killed. That is the plan to take place. And we see that Peter is in the middle of this situation. And what's so amazing to me is that he has 4 troops of 4 guards each watching over him. Herod has all these guards watching over 4 squads of 4 troops, soldiers watching over Peter. And I don't know if you noticed this, but all throughout the Bible, whenever followers of Jesus, whenever disciples of Jesus, whenever apostles, whatever it may be, whenever they were arrested, they would put them in all these chains, and then they would also have like extra reinforcement around them to try to keep them. Even though these people were not dangerous, these people may not have done anything before, they hadn't hurt anybody, stolen anything, whatever it may be, but they would put all these people around to protect like these little guys that maybe looked a little bit like me, maybe a little bigger, I don't know, I know a lot, whatever, but they just, to guard one person, they'd have all these people. To guard these untrained, it's not like they're trained in martial arts, it's not like, they know how to make shanks, it's not like they have any of this stuff, it's just regular people that are telling others about Jesus, and they would have all this extra guards, which lets me know that they knew there was something special about them. Lets me know that they knew that there was something, even though they didn't fully believe what they were saying, there was something about them that got them scared enough to put extra guards. But what's beautiful in that is that even when they did all of this, there were still times when they escaped, when they got out with all of these things. Because when God has a plan, nobody can stop it. When God orchestrates a plan, nobody can stop it. No king, no soldier, no person, no bank account, nothing can stop. When God has a plan, nothing can stop it. So Peter is in this prison cell, and he's supposed to be put on trial, killed the next day. And it says here in Acts chapter 12 and verse number 6 that the people around Peter and in his circle, they were praying earnestly for him because they knew he would die if he did not get delivered. But it says in Acts 12:6 that the night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains, and sentries stood guard at the entrance. And suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and a light shone in the cell, and he struck Peter on the side, woke him up. "Quick, get up," he said, and the chains fell off Peter's wrist. Now, the craziest part to me here is not that the angel shows up. Okay, the craziest part here is not that the chains fell off of Peter's wrist. The craziest part to me is that Peter was asleep. And the reason it's crazy to me that Peter is asleep is because he's going to be on trial the next day. And he knows that this trial is going to lead to his death. And my dude Peter is asleep the night before all of this takes place. That is some crazy faith. That is some bold faith to be able to sleep the night before a trial that could lead to your death. I don't know about you, but I can just know that I have a big phone call coming up the next day and I can't sleep. Like Sunday nights, I can't sleep. Just thinking of everything, I can't get my mind to shut down. I can't sleep. If I knew that the next day I was going to be on trial for having done nothing wrong and possibly end up being killed because of that trial, I wouldn't be sleeping a wink. Why do you need to sleep? You're about to, it doesn't matter. right? The next day's coming and you're going to heaven. So why rest up, right? I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd be trying to think, can I get through that window? Can I get through that thing? And truthfully, I'd have been praying like nonstop. But we know Peter kind of had a habit of falling asleep while praying anyways from the Garden of Gethsemane. But I'm not going to go back to Easter Sunday, even though to me every Sunday is Easter Sunday, because every Sunday is about the resurrection of Jesus and his power in our lives and his sacrifice for us and what it meant for us. But let me go on. So in Acts 12 and verse 6 through 11, we see that Peter is asleep on the night before he is going to be on trial to be put to death. That's some bold faith. Anybody would be honest and say, I wouldn't be sleeping. Like anybody, let me just see a show of hands. Like I wouldn't be sleeping. Like if you're watching in the chat, just be like, I wouldn't be asleep. Or if you're like the crazy bold faith person, just be like, yeah, I'd be sleeping. Be all good. World can be burning, like, building burning, and I'm just standing there. It's all good. But not me. I'd be freaking out. But verse number 8, it said, then the angel said to him, put on your clothes and sandals. And Peter did so. Wrap your cloak around you and follow me. The angel told him, and Peter followed him out of the prison. But he had no idea what the angel was doing was really happening. He thought he was seeing a vision. And they passed the first and the second guards and came to the iron gate leading to the city. And it opened for them by itself, and they went through it. Like, imagine this as Peter, like he thinks he's seeing this vision, but it's just like kind of like, just walking, and you see this guard, and I can't imagine what it must have been like. But I almost want to feel as if the guard didn't even see that Peter was walking past him, or that the guard was frozen, whatever it may be. But imagine this as Peter, that you're walking by and you see the very ones who were restricting you, the very ones who were going to kill you, the very ones who were holding you back. You see them looking at you and they're not doing anything. They can't move. They don't know you're there, whatever it may be. The Bible doesn't tell us, but it says that he walked by and they go to the iron gate leading to the city. It opened for them by itself, just whoosh. And when they had walked the length of one street, suddenly the angel left him. I had Peter, I'm like, hey, you want to come back? Like, that was cool, right? Can you just stay with me all the time? Can you go everywhere I go? Just walk with me everywhere. But the angel left because what he came to do had been done. Then Peter came to himself and said, now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's clutches and from everything the Jewish people were hoping would happen. Peter was in a prison cell that he did not deserve to be in. Peter was in a place that he should not be in. He did not want to be in. He did not deserve to be in. He's in the middle of this cell because life has a way of doing that. Life has a way of landing us in situations that we did not plan for. It has a way of landing us in circumstances that we didn't ask for. It has a way of putting us into locations that we really don't want to be in. It has a way of getting us to places that we feel like this must be a mistake. This has to be a mistake. You got to check with somebody else. This has to be a mistake. I don't belong here, right? Do you know my track record? Like Susie Q over there, she kind of deserves it. But me, myself, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to be here. You have the wrong guy. Life has a way of landing you in places that you did not think that you would be in, that you didn't think that you would deserve in your life, because you can seemingly do everything right and still end up in a difficult situation. You can raise the kids right, you can do your job right, you can budget your finances right, and still end up in the middle of a situation where you're like, how did I get here? Why am I here? Why am I facing all of this that I'm facing? I didn't do anything to deserve this. Peter's like, I'm in prison, getting ready to be killed, and all I did was tell people, hey, Jesus is good. Peter didn't hurt anybody. He didn't steal from anybody. This is Peter. He's not done anything wrong, and he's about to be killed. And he had to feel like, you know what, this is wrong. This is a mistake. It shouldn't be this way. He hadn't done anything that warranted all this. And in moments like that, it is very easy for us to wonder and have doubts about if God knows what he's doing. Right? It's very easy for us to have doubts about it, to wonder, what are you doing, God? Sometimes we may even wonder, is he involved at all? Like, are you even involved at all? Are you even here at all? But God will always, in his time, even when we have the doubts, even when we have the questions, even when we end up in a place that we feel like is by mistake, God will, in his time, reveal to us his plan and his direction in our lives and what he has in store for us. So this week, I want to talk to you as we kick off this series, Misdirection. I want to talk to you on the subject, I had my doubts. I had my doubts. Let's pray together. God, I thank you for today. And I just thank you that we have this opportunity to gather together in person. I thank you, God, for technology that lets us gather with those watching online from wherever they are for spring break or at their homes, whatever it may be. God, I thank you that we have this opportunity to gather, to be here in this time together. I pray that you would prepare our hearts, help us to be open and receptive to hear and see from you. Pray that you would help no one to see or hear from me. I thank you for it in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. Now, one thing I know is that there's two types of people in this world. There's the type of people that know where everything is at all times. And then there's a type of people that just kind of stuff is everywhere, right? Like if you go into their house, you wouldn't be able to find anything because stuff is everywhere. And then there's a breakdown of those type of people. The ones who have stuff everywhere, there's those who have stuff everywhere, but they still know where it's at. You know what I'm talking about? Like it's under like 6 loads of laundry, but they can find the keys or whatever it is that they need in that moment. And then you have those that don't know where anything is at. And they spend like 30 minutes trying to get out of the house because they got to find their keys that they literally just used 30 minutes ago. But when they got home, they just threw them somewhere, so now they got to go. And it just stuff's everywhere, right? I love those type of people. I do, but they stress me out. Because I am the one who knows where everything is at all times. Or at least I know where it's supposed to be. Because now we have toddlers. And they think it's fun to take your things and to put them in other places. They think it's fun to hide your stuff. But I like to know where everything is. So I have a set place for everything to go in our house. I know where it's at all times. I know where my keys are. I know where my wallet is. Because I'm all about being efficient. And it's not efficient when you have to search for something that you use every day. So I put the same thing in the same place every day so I know where it's going to be when I get ready to go somewhere, whenever I get ready to leave. But our kids, they love to hide things like car keys. They love to hide wallets. They love to hide shoes and whatever it may be. But I get a little bit stressed out whenever I can't find things because I just want everything to be in the place where I want it to be. And for whatever reason, they think it is absolutely hilarious when you can't find the thing that they hid. And no matter how much you tell them, I need this now, they just laugh at you. Like it's funny. And especially our youngest Elijah, he loves to hide things. He loves to take my keys, and he says, he takes the keys to my truck, and he says, Daddy's broom broom. Daddy's broom broom is what he calls the truck. And so he'll like go take my keys and he'll go walking towards the garage, right? Daddy's broom broom, Daddy's broom broom. And normally I watch him and I see when he drops the keys down and then I pick them up and I put them back where they go. That's what I normally do. But a few weeks ago, we were getting ready to leave the house on a Sunday morning and I couldn't find my keys anywhere. And let me tell you something about us on Sunday mornings, okay? Sunday mornings are a huge day for us, right? Like they're a big day in our household. So we have a lot on our minds. We have a lot we're trying to think through, trying to prepare for. And then we're trying to get out the door and get to church and be here early. Because I'm like, I need to be here, at least an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes early, get the parking signs put out and all that kind of stuff so I can then gather myself. Because as long as I'm on a good time schedule, I'm good. I'm not stressed. But whenever the time starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and I realize I'm going to be late or whatever it may be, that's when I start to get stressed, right? So like Saturday night, lay the clothes out. The clothes are ready to go. Like I'm just telling you, we're prepped. So Sunday morning comes, and I know where everything is. We get out of the house. But one Sunday a couple weeks ago, we went to leave, and I went to grab my truck keys, and I couldn't find them. And I immediately was like, Elijah! Because I don't get frustrated easily, but I get frustrated if I can't find things. So I'm like, Elijah, dude, where are my keys? And he goes, Daddy, broom, broom. And he goes running into the bathroom like he's going to go get my keys where I keep them. I'm like, he's already forgotten where he put my keys. So then I'm asking Judah, I'm like, hey man, can you help me find my keys? Because he's a kid. I'm like, you think like a kid? And he's like, I don't know, Daddy. I didn't see Elijah with the keys. I was like, well, I know he had them because they're missing. So I realized after about 5 minutes, I remembered, I think I have a spare key. I grabbed the spare key and we left. We came to church. Could not find my key for about 4 days. And then I was here at church on a Thursday, working Thursday or Friday, whatever day it was. And I had a jacket on and I go to put something in my pocket. And when I do, I feel my truck keys. And I realized it all came back to me. Like, you ever had something like it just all like floods back into your memory in one moment? And it flooded back to me that I was trying to get into the house a few days before Sunday, or a few hours before, the Saturday before Sunday. I was trying to get into the house, I was trying to carry things in there, so I put the keys in my pocket. And it all flooded back to me that I had put them in my jacket. The reason I couldn't find them was because it was out of place. I hadn't put them in the right place. I had put them out of place. And because they were out of place, I thought that they were lost. And I thought that something else had happened. And I didn't like the fact that they were out of place. And so often in our lives, see, you may not care about your things being out of place, but nobody likes to feel like their life is out of place. Nobody likes to feel as if they're in a place that they should not be in. You may be fine with stuff being everywhere, but you don't like to feel like your life is not in the place that you thought it would be. You don't like to feel as if your marriage is not in the place that you thought it would be. You don't like to feel as if your career is in the place, your business is not in the place that you thought that it would be. Nobody likes to feel that way. We all want this to be the way that we envisioned it, the way that we thought that it would go. Peter didn't envision his life ending up in prison. He didn't want that to be the case. He was out of place in prison. But it says in verse number 6 that the night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between two soldiers bound with two chains, and sentries stood guard at the entrance. Peter did not deserve to be in this place. He had not done anything to warrant being put into this prison cell and having this near-death experience, being put on trial, going to be killed the next day. And yet here he was in a prison cell, preparing for a trial the next day that would undoubtedly lead to his death. That's exactly where he found himself. This was not a place that Peter would have ever envisioned for his life. He never said, you know what, I'm going to follow Jesus, and then I'm going to tell people about Jesus, and then I'm going to end up in prison, and I'm going to die. Right? If somebody would have told Peter that, he'd be like, wait, what? Like, can we get back to the end of that? Like, I'm going to serve the Lord. I'm going to tell people about Jesus. But that next part, can we do away with that? Right? That's not part of the plan that I have. Have you ever felt like you did everything right only to end up in a place that seemed wrong? Have you ever felt like you had done all the right things only to end up, because a common misconception that we have is that when our life seems like it's falling apart, a common misconception that we have is when it seems like we're not in the place that we thought that we would be, when we're not in the place that we felt like we deserved to be in, when everything seems to be crashing down, then I must have done something wrong. This is a misconception that we have, that when everything is falling apart, I got to go back and I got to look in my history, I got to look in my past, and I got to see, well, I messed up here 5 years ago. Maybe this is payback. Well, I messed up 10 years ago. Maybe God is just now catching up to me, and he's gotten me in this situation to try to teach me a lesson. We tend to think that because of what I did, I am now in the situation that I'm in. And that's not always the case. Sure, there are moments where we do things that get us into trouble, and we know, like if a fire is burning and we stick our hand in it and it burns us, guess what? Nobody else did that but me. There's moments that we know that we did something that got us into a situation. But then there are times where things happen that's not happening because of what we did. Life has a way of throwing us into the middle of circumstances and locations and situations that we did nothing to get ourselves there. And one of the things that I've learned in my brief 31 years of life, and I'll be honest, I've learned it a lot over the last year. Like a lot over the last year is when we get in these situations, we tend to ask ourselves the wrong questions. We tend to always ask ourselves, God, when can I get out of this? God, how much longer? When can I get out of this? You ever prayed that before? Like God, when can I get out of this? When will this be over? When can I get through this? This has been my prayer over the last years. God, what is going on? When can this be over? When can we see the other side of this situation? But that's the wrong question. We're constantly asking ourselves, when can I get out of this? Instead of, God, what can I get out of this? See, many times in order to end up in the right place, we have to apply what we learned in the wrong place. And so often in our lives, we're in a place that isn't what we envisioned. It's not where God said he was taking us. It's not what we were believing for. It's not what we prayed for. Everything's not adding up. It seems like 1 + 1 is equaling 1,700. It doesn't make sense. And we sit in these moments and we spend all of our time, God, why? God, when can I get out of this? God, help me get out of this. God, help me get through this. And God's saying, what can you get through this? What can you get out of this? And God can use what you learn in the midst of those moments to prepare you for the place that he is actually trying to take you. A lot of times we end up in a place that seems like a mistake. It's not a mistake, it's a detour. It's not a mistake, it's a detour to get us to the place where God is taking us because there's something we need to pick up. Going to Nicole's parents' house, it's about 30 minutes from our house, and we always go the same trail, right? Just the same drive every time. And they were doing a bunch of road work, and so we had to take a detour. And when we took the detour, I was kind of complaining about having to take the detour, but then we're on the detour, and it took us a way that I had never been before, and I saw a bunch of stuff that was so pretty, because I'm the type that I don't really care how long it takes me to get somewhere. I just want a pretty drive. I just want a beautiful drive. And so we're on this drive, and I see all these things that I've never seen before, and I told Nicole, I said, I didn't know that this was in this area. She said, yeah, we've never had to drive this way before. But see, if I would have never driven that way, because of the detour, if I would have never been pushed onto that path, then I never would have seen those things that I saw in that moment. And so often we have a detour in our life where God is trying to show us some things, trying to teach us some things. It's not a mistake to stop us. It's not going to end us, but it's just to detour us so that we can learn a little bit more, so that we can grow a little bit more, so that once we get back onto the path, back onto the track that we were once on, we're able to use what we learned along the way and apply it in the place where God is taking us. But if we're so concerned with how do I get out of this instead of what can I get in this, then we completely miss it. We completely miss it. Peter's near-death prison experience was admittedly not ideal in his life. This is not something that Peter would have wanted. Peter did not wake up one day. Now, I know y'all do this because you got the faith, but Peter did not wake up one day and say, hey, you know what would be awesome? It's for my faith to be put to the test, for me to be arrested, and to be told that I'm going to be killed the next day. And this is not like a false promise. This is not something where somebody's talking a big game. Peter has seen that James, the brother of John, Jesus' disciple, has been arrested and killed. Peter knows, I'm next. Peter never woke up one morning and was like, hey, that's what I want to do. I just want to kind of go through this, Really been struggling with my faith, God, and God, to get my faith to the next level, I think I need to be threatened with dying. To really grow, God, that's what I need, is to be told that I'm going to be killed. It's not what Peter was doing. He did not wake up saying, I want to be put into a prison. And for you, maybe it's not a literal prison. Maybe it just feels like a prison. Maybe it just feels like a prison of feeling stuck, a prison of feeling inadequate, a prison of feeling insecure, a prison of feeling disappointed, a prison of feeling confused, a prison of feeling frustrated, a prison of feeling impatient. Maybe for you, it's not a literal prison, but whatever it is, you may not be in an ideal place. Peter was not in an ideal situation. It was not ideal, but guess what? It also wasn't permanent. It wasn't ideal, but it wasn't permanent. Because you may be somewhere today that you know is not where God said he was taking you. You know it's not where God said he was leading you. You know it's not what God promised in your life. You may be somewhere today, but if you're in that situation, you can rest in the truth that if it's not where God said he's taking you, then it's not permanent. If it's not what God said he had for you, it's not permanent. Stop setting up residence in a place that was supposed to be a pass-through. If it's not where God said he was taking you, it's not permanent. It's not permanent. You may not be in an ideal situation, but God will show up in time every time. And he will walk you right out of that circumstance and walk you into the place where you're meant to be. May not be where you want to be right now, but God will show up in time, every single time. Stop trying to rush the process. Stop trying to figure it out. Stop trying to just come up with your own plan. Trust that God will show up in time every time. Even if you got yourself into that mess, God has a way of showing up in time every time to get you out of where you're not supposed to be into the place that you're meant to be. Peter was in prison, asleep, and he was preparing for trial and death the next day, and an angel showed up and walked him out. Just showed up and just walked him out. And it says in verse number 9, I love this so much, it says, Peter followed him out of the prison, but he had no idea that what the angel was doing was really happening. He thought he was seeing a vision. He had no idea that it was really happening. In other words, it seemed too good to be true. That's the next thing. If you're taking notes, I need you to write down. It's too good to be true. Type it in the chat. Too good to be true. Too good to be true. Peter's like, this can't be happening, right? This can't be real. Like, I must be dreaming because that's how good God is. God is so good that he can show up in your life in such a way that you say, I've got to be dreaming. This is too good to be true. We've all heard this saying before, right? We've all heard this saying, it's too good to be true. And we've heard, if it's too good to be true, it is. Right? Like that's what we always, that's what we say. And maybe that's true sometimes. But what if we changed our perspective? What if we changed our mindset? What if instead of being negative and saying if it's too good to be true, it is, what if instead of being negative and thinking that something negative is going to happen, what if we started to believe for greatness? What if we started to believe in the God that we sing about? What if we started to believe in the God that we tell others about, that we preach about, that we talk about? What if we started to, instead of saying, if it seems too good to be true, it is, we started to say, if it seems too good to be true, it might be God. If it seems too good to be true, it just might be God. I'm not giving up hope just because it seems too good to be true. Maybe that thing is God. Maybe that thing that seems too good to be true in my life isn't too good to be true. Maybe that thing that seems too good to be true in my life is actually God. Because what God was doing for Peter was so great that it didn't even seem real. It seemed like a dream. Because that's how good God is. That's how good God is. That's one way to really know that it's God. When he shows up in your life and it is so good that you're like, is this even real? Is this even really happening? Like, this is too good to be true. But the problem with that is that a lot of us, we have big dreams, but we have small faith. We have big dreams for all these great things, but we have small faith. We have big things that we're believing for God to do, that we're believing to see God do in our lives, these great things that we're expecting, but we don't really have the faith that he's actually going to do it. And so then when God actually shows up and starts to intervene on our behalf and do what we said we wanted him to do, when he actually starts to do it, we don't even believe that it's true. It's like we prayed for years, and so then when God actually does it, we don't even think it can actually be happening. And so then we decide we're either not going to walk through it or we're going to sabotage it. How many of us are sabotagers? I know that I've been a sabotager in life many times. We'll sabotage it. We'll say, you know what? Well, man, like I know I've been praying for the perfect person to be in my life for a long time, and I've been through a ton of terrible relationships, a lot of bad dating relationships, and now there's this person here who seems like everything I've been praying for, something's got to be wrong. Like, when's the other shoe going to drop, right? Like, when is the other shoe going to drop? I know, like, it's too good. I got to break up with them. Why'd you break up with them? They were too perfect. I've literally had somebody tell me that before. They were too perfect. Like, they had their act, like, it was too good. And I'm like, but it was literally everything that you had said that you were always looking for in a spouse. They're like, yeah, I know, it was just too good. And I just knew that it couldn't really be that good and they had to be hiding something. We'll sabotage it. Or we'll have a door in our lives that we've been believing for God to open for so long. And he finally opens it. And instead of walking through the door, we're scared to walk through it because we're like, I don't want to get my hopes up. I've got my hopes up before. And as soon as I took one step towards the door shut. I don't want to get my hopes up. So instead of walking through the door that God has opened in my life, I'm just going to stand here and I'm just going to stay here. Instead of walking through the opportunity that God has given me, I'm going to stay on this 9-to-5 job because it's comfortable, because it's familiar. And I'm afraid if I step out and walk through the door that God has opened for me, that it's going to shut and I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. So we just avoid the door that we've been praying for. So many times God does exactly what we've been believing for, praying for in our lives, but we sabotage it or we avoid it because we're expecting it to not even be real, to be too good to be true. But for Peter, once it was all said and done, once it was all over, he's like, listen, this is too good to be true. I'm seeing a vision. I don't even understand what's happening. But once it was all over, it says that Peter said, now I know. Now I know. And that's the last thing. If you're taking notes today, I want you to write down, now I know. Type it in the chat, now I know. Peter said, now I know. I've been through this, but now I know. In verse number 10 and 11, it said, they passed the first and the second guards and came to the iron gate leading to the city. And it opened for them by itself, and they went through it. And when they had walked the length of one street, suddenly the angel left him. Verse 11, then Peter came to himself and said, now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's clutches and everything that the Jewish people were hoping would happen. He said, now I know. Now I know. I had my doubts, but now I know. I wasn't sure, but now I know. I didn't understand it, but now I know. I didn't know how it'd work out, but now I know. It seemed too good to be true, but now I know. I didn't think that I could make it any further, but now I know. He said, now I know without a doubt that the Lord has rescued me. I know without a doubt that the Lord has shown up for me. I know without a doubt that God has brought me through. It wasn't my friends, it wasn't my family, it wasn't my bank account, it wasn't my career, it wasn't my job, it wasn't any of that. I know without a doubt that the Lord has brought me through. Without a doubt. I know without a doubt. And I love it so much because Peter's like, he's like, I didn't even know it was God. The whole time. I didn't even know it was God. The whole time it was taking place, I didn't even know that it was God. That's the miracle, is when it's so outrageous and it's so impossible and it's so improbable that you don't even know that it's happening. That God is working in such a way that you don't even realize that he's working. When it seems like it's too good to be true, or it seems like it's all over, or it seems like I don't have the answer. Those are the moments that God is working in such a way that you don't even realize it. Those are the beautiful moments when we have our doubts, when we're not really sure what's going to take place, when we're a little confused about it, when we don't even know if God is there, and then we get to the end of the very thing that we thought was going to take us out. We get to the end of the situation we're in that we thought was a mistake, and we see, now I know that without a doubt, God was orchestrating, God was planning, God was directing, God was moving. In the moment when I didn't even think he was there, God was there.